All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my studio. In today's video, we're going to be painting the beautiful white magnolia. And I had a magnolia tree in my yard in Canada, and I've had a few requests to paint magnolias, so I thought I will find one. Reference photo I found is royalty free on Unsplash, so we'll be using that today. And it looks like a very similar magnolia to what I was used to. There's different ones. There's some that grow like more like cherry blossoms and whatnots, but this one is more like the kind of the real defined magnolia that I like. It's sort of almost almost reminds me of a water lily or something. So to start off, I'm gonna just sort of, okay, so first of all, I primed this canvas with a little bit of Liquitex Basics green, gray, and a little bit of white. And I primed it with this kind of gray background to start because the flower is white, and I thought it would make it easier for you to the shape forming uh, right away with that kind of gray background. So I'm just going to use a little bit of, see if I can get more of my palette and everything in there. That's a bit better. So I'm going to use a bit of this. I've got some quick dry medium and a little this burnt sienna. I'm just kind of mixing it in. And I might just kind of sketch a little bit of it first. So let's start with putting sort of the center in. And then from there, there's the real cool kind of bloom in the middle. And just get a few of these petals in. So I'm starting with what I can kind of see the easiest, and that's that contrast of that little inner stem thing that's kind of in the middle that's really, really nice. And then I'm going to kind of go around and branch off from there and see if we can get something close to it. It's a little, bit more drawing because it is more of an, I call them in the kind of the family of orchids where you have these more defined kind of shapes. But it's, worth the challenge to do. So I'm just gonna kind of sketch in the shape here using this burnt sienna and a little bit of this quick dry medium just to kind of get it on there smooth. Actually, another thing about, kind of uh, doing your canvas with a color like this with acrylic is it really kind of makes it smoother too. So it kind of gives your eye a little bit of time to wake up to your drawing and your artist side of your brain too. When you kind of sketch like this, you can sort of see things as you go that as you kind of warm up, you sort of see different shapes better. But that's kind of the gist of it. And then you're gonna have these a few branches and some of these magnolia leaves, very, very shiny and waxy. They almost look fake. They're so pretty. So I'm not going to get into that. There is another kind of a little bloom that's forming off to the side. I can put that in maybe. We'll see. We might delete that later, but who knows. And then we got all these different leaves coming down. Okay. And then we've got these real curly ones up close that are in the very center. Really, really beautiful flower. I think what makes it are these center ones that, really kind of curl up. Okay. So you just so now that I've gotten this drawn in, I'm gonna look at sort of what color are these darker whites. So white flowers can be tricky because some people find it hard to mix kind of warm whites up. So I'll show you a sort of an easy mix to do. We can take some of this white and some viridian. We'll start off with a darker mixture first. So I'm going to use the viridian and the white and a little bit of this burnt sienna. And to warm it up, I'll use a little yellow ochre in there. And you could just make it even a little darker. Just add a little bit of viridian, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. Now you got yourself a nice natural green kind of shadow color there for the magnolia. So just go and get this is a silver 10 bright that I'm using. And I'll just sort of block in some of that darker. Now it blends really well with the background, so you'll see later. I think what we'll do is I'll go a little notch darker on some of that green. I might even add a little cobalt to the mix and go a little darker for this one's the darkest, this little guy here that curls up. You don't have to get the shape perfect right away because you can, we're going to be adding the white and I'll show you how to cut into the paint too, so you can shape the petals as you go as well with the lighter white paint that we'll add. But first of all, I'm just kind of going to block in some of these darker petal shapes that I drew in there. And it'll all sort of make sense soon. But I'm kind of looking at where there's some darker shadows. It's like I'm putting in the shadows, even though I've got that darker underpaint gray. Kind of stops it from, being as obvious that I've got shadow paint in there, but it's very close to that background, so it's hard to tell. But I will add the lighter white in there, and then it'll really pop that flower right off the canvas. And I've got a little bit of quick dry medium in a little cup. And the quick dry medium I use is this Cobra quick drying medium. It helps spread the paint a little quicker, and it also helps to dry your paintings a little quicker if you're, if you're selling your art or something and you want your paintings to dry a little faster, then you can add a little bit of that into the mix. Just going to make a little bit, this area here is a lot darker, so I'm just going to add a little bit of a darker mix of that kind of neutral color. Put a little bit of that there. And now I'm going to add a little more white in there. Start to build some of the petals in a bit more. I'm going to just blocking, and then I'll go back and really blend that in there. Block and then I'll blend. See how I can already start to shape the nice curve of that petal there. I always get ahead of myself on the details. But hey, you kind of need some inspiration along the way. Okay, and then I've got this one here's got a nice kind of warm white, so I'm going to add a little ochre, yellow ochre to that, and sort of blend that in a bit. And then, of course, you've got the bottom of this other petal here. And so if you're watching this video and you like what you see, I've got lots and lots of videos like this on my Patreon membership channel. So you can watch the loads of full-length lessons there. And I'm uploading all the time tips and tricks and different videos there. Plus, I have lots of, Christmas lessons and stuff like that, like where I have seasonal, all kinds of fun lessons like that too. Okay, so, and then I see put a bit of that highlight of that petal up there. Can go back and add some more of that shadow color in there. And a lot of the time I don't draw in everything, but because this flower's a little bit more complex, I sort of I sort of went for that more a draw in start instead of just block in the whole thing. Okay, and then I'm going to blend this a little more now that it's been kind of sitting there a bit. And then I see there's a bit of a darker kind of petal underneath curling up. And same with this. This is another side of a petal that's more in the shadow there. And same with here. I added a touch of cobalt blue to that mixture just to add a little bit of that lighter but kind of in the shadows type color. Same with here. I'll add a little more of that cobalt mix and I'll do the same here, kind of lighten that up, that blue. And just kind of working around and look, I'm back and forth looking at my reference photo and then kind of putting in another kind of color. Without taking away too much of the shadow. And now I can go and start adding. Oops, I want to add this lighter. I think I'll switch to a smaller brush and just get in some of the details. So and I forgot to mention, I got all excited about painting that I forgot to mention these are all pretty inexpensive paints I'm using. I found a brand called it's a popular brand, but not not as popular as all the other brands, called Lucas Berlin. It's a German company, and these tubes of paint I found because I was doing a lot with the catalyst wedge tool. I bought these, and they were like 14.99 a tube for a really large tube. So I'll try to put a link to where you can get them and everything in the description. So now I've got my smaller brush and I'm just going to start to look at my reference and I'm going to cut out that shape a little bit. It has sort of you just kind of try to cut out some of that, shape of the leaf. And then I'm going to blend because I don't want to lose all this shadow here. So I'll just kind of blend that and then I'm going to go over here and add some more I'm going to add some white with a tiny, tiny touch of that yellow, just a real tiny touch of that cad yellow to get that brighter white. And then it's really bright up here. And now I can kind of cut in that petal shape there. It kind of dips in and then goes out. Can really have fun shaping these, at this point, shaping these beautiful petals. Okay, and then I'll do the same wherever I want to make sure I get this nice kind of wave, that middle petal there. Get a real nice bright highlight on there. Nice thick paint. And same with here. I'm just going to get some more, get a bunch of that, and I'll add a little bit of that yellow to it so it's a little bit brighter. Now I could easily kind of blend in too. If I don't want it so bright right there, I can kind of blend that with all the paint I got on there. And it comes all the way to the edge of that. And just keep going. Get a little more light down here. And now I can kind of go and put some of this petal in. And on my palette, I've got all these nice varieties of different warm whites and whatnot to put out there. Just going to warm up that shadow a little bit with some more kind of yellow ochre mix, but I don't want to lose the shadow because then that flower won't make sense. And this one here, we got to add some more white to that. And I'm just going to keep adding and keep mixing in different values of, basically, it's all different values of this white. So it's kind of a more tricky subject because of that. Just kind of getting, all those different values correct to show the white. And I'm going to blend in a little more light in that petal now. Just keep looking at your reference and then, adding the different values. So this one here is a bit of an uplight on this one, so I'll add a little bit more of that light blue. And then that means if it's not showing up right, that little area down here needs a bit more of a darker shadow underneath that petal. And then I'll go back and get some white and that cobalt blue again and see if I can get that little bit of kind of under light there. Maybe I need to make it a little bluer. This comes down actually a little further. I kind of misdrew that a bit, but we can just easily extend that down. And then pull the paint down to bring that back in. Okay. And to keep this sort of simple, I'm just going to use a little yellow ochre to shape the center thing that's kind of sticking out that looks so pretty in there and kind of ornate. And I'll use maybe a little viridian and some of that burnt sienna just to sort of give it a little shadow. And then it has some kind of, I guess they're sort of dead little bloom thingies that are falling down and stuff. So we'll sort of work on that too. Let me just here there's sort of a kind of a white edge. So I'm just gonna spread that a little and then get that shadow back in there. Okay. Just keep making sure you get the kind of the shadows in there and you can really start to give it, the shape underneath these because all the paint's sort of built up now, so you can really kind of work on them a bit more and even tweak the color. If it looks too cool, you can add a little bit more of the, yellow ochre to the mix and kind of warm up these original shadows. They might have been too cool. So I kind of go around and kind of look at the different shapes that maybe I lost some and you win some and you lose some. And kind of lighten some of them up. And you can always come back and add because the bottom layer paint mixes in quite a bit still, but you can always let it set up a bit and then come and add some real bright white highlights. For now, I'm just gonna leave it as it is, and I'll keep working on the main kind of the main things I see. Like this one here was really dark. And I might as well, I'll put in that other kind of, there's another kind of bud over here. So I'll use a little sap and yellow ochre and get that sort of olivey green colored. I'll just kind of stick it in the background like it's another it's another kind of bloom that's in the backdrop there. It might have been another one that had been there and then kind of gone away, but it'll just be kind of interesting. Has a kind of a unique feel to it, so I'll put it in there. And then I'll get a little of that burnt sienna, and I've got some of that Payne's gray, and I'll kind of put in that little bit more shadow in there. Okay, now that I've got the flower kind of really set up there, I'm going to start blocking in some of the grains and stuff for the leaves. So, and I'm not too worried about it being, exact, but I'll get some sap and some of this cad yellow And I'll start blocking in some of those leaf shapes. And then the gray, the reason I liked it is because it kind of adds like it's already sort of a background color that I don't mind leaving, in between the leaves. It could be kind of decorative that way if you want to leave some of the greens coming through. I mean the grays coming through. So I'm gonna get in some dark. I'm using the sap and Payne's gray and just kind of blocking in some of the darker greens, and then I'll put in some lighter greens as well. Just sort of have a variety. Leaving some of the grays kind of we can leave some of them and kind of get rid of some later. Get some different greens going. I use viridian and sap kind of interchangeably because I like that the um, viridian is cooler and the sap is kind of warmer when you mix it with the yellows and stuff. But I'm just creating kind of more of a pattern than anything of leaves. I'm not really worried about specific leaves yet. They're more there to really show this flower off. I really enjoy these types of paintings that are a little bit more work, but they're definitely worth it. And we'll soften some of these edges off too. Um, get some of these darker notes in there. It's really going to make the flowers stand out amazingly. This is just some Payne's gray and whatever's on my brush, of course, but I want to get that darker stuff down here blocked in. And we'll loosen those edges on some of those because they're very tight. You can get some of those easily put on those light